So, today I will show you how to create a panorama using Lightroom and Photoshop. As you can read in my tutorial, I tell you all the little steps, what to think about when shooting a panorama. I think it's really important to read that first, because there's a few little tips you need to know to ensure you've got perfect results when jumping into Photoshop and Lightroom. So here we are, this is Lightroom. You might be aware of it, you might not, but it's important to start your process here because it's really easy to ensure that all the photos you're going to use for your panorama are looking exactly the same exposure, the same colors, the same sharpness. If you not do that, you will see awkward lines and awkward shades in your final panorama. So it's important to start here. So what you see here is basically the first photo I want to use. I'm using the 12 Apostles. So that's the first one. This is the second one, that's the third one, that's the fourth one, that's the fifth one. There's a duplicate, so I'm not using that fifth, and the sixth and the seventh. So these are the 7 photos I want to use. So when you go to the Develop tab, you'll see the photo that I've got here. And I made some tiny little adjustment, not too much, just a little bit of highlights, a little bit of shadows, a little bit of whites and blacks, just a almost normal deep pattern. A little bit of vibrance, not much saturation. You can use the vibrance because there's quite a lot of blue in this photo already. Normally when you use vibrance, it adds quite a lot of blue. I don't mind it in this photo because it's the sea, it's the clouds, it's the sky, so there is quite a lot of blue, so that's all right. When you scroll down here, you will get to the lens correction box, and that is a really important box, especially when making a panoramas. There's always a little bit of disturbance, a little bit of distortion in your photos. It's because of the way the lens is built, so your photos always look like a barrel, just a little bit. When you touch this box, you will see that the photo, you see the small movement? And by doing that, you make sure that the lines are extremely straight, so Photoshop can easily stitch all photos together. So ensure you tick those 2 boxes. If Lightroom doesn't automatically find your lens profile, just use the drop-down boxes here. So yeah, that's it for now. So we've made small adjustments. Here you see all the photos that have been selected. Ensure when you make your adjustments that you select the photo with the main subject. For me, it's the 12 Apostles, so this is the main subject I have. I could have selected that one or that one, it doesn't really matter. But by doing so, you ensure that the main subject is exactly lit and exactly edited the way you want to. If you go to the side, so like photos like this, it's not really important because it's not the main subject of a photo, but you want to make sure that the light, so the clouds, for example, in the sea, are exposed the exact same way. So make your exposure for the main subject and then hit sync settings for all the other photos. Basically hit everything. The only thing that normally I switch off is crop. It doesn't really matter because I haven't done much to this photo. Anyway, synchronize, and Lightroom will ensure that all photos are synced exactly the same, so edited exactly the same. And you can see that by those little the plus and the minus sign you see in the photos. So once we've done that, we are going to move to Photoshop. So we're going to right click, you're going to edit in and merge to panorama in Photoshop. Now there's one thing that is important here. If you do this, Photoshop is basically going to change the original photos. So these photos we have here are going to be merged in a panorama, so you will actually lose it. If you don't want to lose the original photos, just make a copy, a duplicate of it, and you can do that easily by doing an export or by just copying the photos, so you have double photos, so your original photos are not going to be lost. So for now, just to make it easy, we go to edit or merge to panorama in Photoshop. So here we are. So what you'll see is Photoshop is opening this prompt box. You'll see it's called Photo Merge, and you'll see it loads all the photos that we've just edited and selected in Lightroom. You don't have to do anything here, just make sure the layout stays on auto, and just hit OK. Now, what Photoshop will do is it will open all the photos as layers. You will see that they will show up here. And it is looking for the overlap between the photos. And that is where the 40% overlap is really important, as I explained in my tutorial about shooting the actual panorama. Ensure that you've got about 40%, so about here, about this line, that you ensure that line overlaps with each photo. In that way, Photoshop can easily see, hey, this looks the same, this looks the same, that looks the same, so that's where the line of the photo needs to be. I'm just speeding up the process here now. This normally, depending on the speed of your computer, obviously, but normally takes about a minute and a half for all the photos to be loaded and for Photoshop to find the exact lines in between the photos. So, that's it basically. What you see here is that Photoshop has created a panorama, stitched all the photos together. But you see at the top and at the bottom, you see kind of a curve. That is because your camera moves from the left to the right while you're shooting the photo. You can prevent this by putting an extension to your tripod where you basically pull the camera back a little bit and where you turn the camera not around the camera base, but you turn the camera around basically the end of your lens. The most important part is that you keep in mind while shooting the photo that you will lose that part of your panorama. So we do a little bit of cropping here now and just go back to the original. But when you take the photo, keep in mind that you will lose the tops and the bottom of your photo and also a little bit of the side. And that's why I say in my tutorial, ensure that you shoot a little bit further than where the actual edges of your photo, of your panorama will be. Now, you might want to make a few adjustments. It's quite dark over here. It's a little bit dull over here. So what you want to do is just, you can either merge them or group them. Let's merge them for now. Merge layer, so you've got one. And we're going to make small adjustments. For this example, I will use the camera raw filter in Photoshop. And I believe that we really need to pull out those shadows. They're quite dark and dull, a little bit more whites. And to give you a good tip, a little tip, when you press Alt and you move the slider from the left to right, you see those blue dots, those blue little areas come up. That basically are the clipping areas. That means that there's too much white, 100% white in that part. So when you press that and you go all the way to the area where it basically starts to become white, it tells you that's it, that's the edge. You can't really go much further than this. A little bit more contrast because I like the contrast part of it, otherwise it will become really flat and dull. A little bit more exposure just to bring up all the lights a little bit. And here we have the dehaze slider, which basically takes the fogginess out of a picture. So if you have a picture where it's got a little bit of fog, like a haze over it, this slider really takes that out. Be careful though, because if you use it too much, it will compromise the quality of your image. In this image, it's actually quite good because it had a little bit of that fogginess from the sea mist, and this slider takes it out. It gives it just a little bit more depth we're looking for. I believe that it became quite a nice photo. We don't need more color. The color is perfect. So that's it for now. Here you see the before and after. Just give Photoshop a little bit time to load it. There we are. Well, I think that worked out really, really well. I think the colors really popped, the lights worked out really well. This was just a basic example of panoramas, but it should give you all the tools you need to make it work for yourself. If you have any more questions, give me a call, send me an email. I'm happy to help. And thanks for watching for now. Cheers.